Was good, yeah. In this video, we're going to talk about why you should save your summons. Even though Hex and First are super exciting, there's way more exciting things ahead, and we are going to try to answer the question of why should you even consider keeping your summons. And it's going to be a bit of a different one, more of like a presentation-ish style video, and you'll see the reason later. So on the question of ancients, honestly, Valderon. Valderon is pretty much the answer to should you save your ancients. Tomorrow is going to be the ancient banner, but it's a banner without any rate ups, without anything special, and yeah, there's honestly no reason to summon your ancients there, especially considering how rare ancients are. You should always summon them with a purpose, really, unless obviously you want to spend some money and don't really care about what you get. So yeah, Valderon appears to shape up to be one of the strongest units in the entire game, one of the probably also strongest solo units, considering the fact that he can do massive stuff just by himself, as well as the fact that his slot bonus also revolves around him. And yeah, he's probably going to be pretty strong in almost all parts of the game, unless it's obviously anti-air. So yeah, for your ancients, honestly, Valderon, the man over here, is the reason why you should consider holding on to your ancients. Now onto the blue summons. It is again rumored that next week or even the week after we're again going to get a 1+1 banner. So for everyone that just wants to push their account, wants to get the most out of their pity, and isn't necessarily looking for Hex specifically, you might want to keep your summons because again the rumors are going around that we are going to get a 1+1 in the near future, next or the week after. And now the second or probably most important reason, Lust. So Lust is the newest teased champion, be it on test servers or Forerunner patch notes and all that. And yeah, let's talk a bit more about Lust. And now it's also the reason why we're doing this as a PowerPoint, because honestly, no one would really be able to focus on what I'm saying if we were going through her kit in the gallery, because she would be moving and all. And yeah, no, but alright, let's be real here. It's basically just because I don't yet have access to the test server. So, yeah, that is what we're dealing with. So what is so special about Lust? Considering the fact that it's always between 2 to 4 weeks when we get stuff leaked on Forerunners or an update on Forerunners and it actually comes to us, Valentine's Day actually lies in that time period. So there is a very real possibility of Lust being a 250 summon guaranteed Valentine's Lego, as well as obviously having the bond skill with arrogance, kind of like a romance thing going on there. So that is a very, very real probability. But now let's talk a bit about Lust. So number one is going to be base stats. So if you take a look at her range, what you're going to see is that it's Dolores range. Lust actually has Dolores range, which is really interesting. And then once we look at her base stats, she has around 4,400 attack, which is rather low, but it kind of starts to make sense when we take a look at her kit. And with an attack interval of 2.6, she's around average when it comes to fighters. So yeah, that's her base stats. If anyone's interested, you can screenshot them or whatever. Alright, over here, the talent and the basic attack. So, her talent states, for every 2 ultimates activated by faction allies of the Nightmare Council, because I forgot to mention, she is Nightmare Council and Nightmare only. So she has only one faction, and that's Nightmare. So in comparison to what we feared, she isn't actually Ancient exclusive. But yeah, so for every 2 ultimates activated by faction allies of the Nightmare Council, so including her, so let's say you activate the Salazar ultimate, you activate her ultimate, she will trigger Sinful Lash. And Sinful Lash deals 400% damage to a random enemy in range, and especially if there's only one enemy in range, that 400% damage is obviously going to hit that enemy, so for example, Guild Boss. And then we have the continuous physical attack, or piercing. No, it's not piercing, it's pretty much continuous physical attack. And now it gets interesting. Randomly attacks enemies in range twice, each dealing 80% damage. So if you upgrade it to 100%, she actually does 200% damage per attack, which is really, really, honestly, it's probably the strongest basic attack in the entire game at the moment. And now the interesting part, with a 15% chance to attack allies instead. So then she's going to whip an ally, and that ally is going to lose 5% of their current HP. So if they're at 100%, they're going to go down to 95. And it's obviously going to be not 5% of max HP, but of current HP. So the lower the HP, the lower she takes HP away. So your units aren't really at risk of getting killed by her, which is rather practical. Alright, now passive 1 and 2. Passive number 1. Every time Sinful Lash is triggered, so her hit after 2 ultimates, she actually increases her attack speed by 30, going up to 40 for 3 times, so potentially 120 attack speed increase after using 6 ultimates. And then Agonizing Delight, you can see Wrath over there already, gains 20% damage increase upon dealing damage to allies with a basic attack. So on a 15% chance, she's going to get a 20% damage increase for 4 seconds. And if the target ally belongs to the Nightmare Council, so obviously Wrath, Torador, Salazar, Arrogant, there is a 40 going up to 60% chance to restore 10% rage for the target, which is honestly really interesting. So not only is she a damage dealing unit, she's also kind of like a rage support. So if she rips someone from your team, that unit restores 10% rage, obviously then allowing him to ult more often, which is quite significant considering Wrath and Arrogance are auto ultimates, so they're going to cycle faster, using their ultimates faster, or even a Salazar, which might even give you the potential to ult 3 times per shield phase for Guild Boss, but that's all remains to be seen. And in the end, it's a 30% damage increase, as well as a 5-second duration if you max skill her. Alright, next one. The ultimate and the bond skill. So let's have a look at the ultimate first. Doing the ultimate deals 20% more damage, and each basic attack lands 4 lashes in a row, lasting for 15 seconds. So if we remember her basic attack, she attacks twice for 80% damage, and now she's not only going to attack twice, but 4 times. So if I'm not reading it wrong, it should be 8 hits. So she's going to whip once, that's going to hit 4 times, and hit again, and that's going to hit 4 times. And yeah, so she basically increases her damage dealt by 40%, as well as the duration up to 20 seconds. And obviously the more attacks she does, the more damage she's going to deal, and that might even interact with her whipping allies. So with her punishing pace, she might as well hit allies even more and turn into a real rage region regenerating force. Obviously some of those wordings are kind of hard to judge, and unless we actually have the ability to test her out, we can't quite yet be certain how many times is what going to hit exactly. And then we have a bond skill. So for the bond skill, you need to obtain Arrogance, and you unlock the following bonus effect. During the ultimate, deals 20% extra damage, which is pretty significant, going from either 20 to 40 or 40 to 60%. And then all damage dealt, which has no relation to the ultimate, all damage dealt inflicts burning, which is just an extra source of damage, or even an extra source for triggering be it Zilitu's, Arrogance's, or probably even her exclusive artifact based on burning, or even making it possible for Anai to start shining a bit more. Maybe that actually helps Anai out. So that is pretty much her kit in general. But now we still need to talk about one more thing, and it's obviously the Awakenings. So for the Awakenings, which are honestly quite significant if we look at the A1. So the Sinful Lash is after using 2 ultimates, her talent. She inflicts death reduction on the target. Defense reduction is probably one of, if not the strongest debuff in the entire game, because the whole damage formula and the way you deal damage all revolves around the enemy defense. So reducing enemy defense is absolutely broken, really, which is also why you see, be it in GVG or maybe even Arena, a lot of Hatsits going around that actually reduce the enemy defense by 30% through her bouncing between targets. And that's her A1. So why should you even consider saving summons? Because if you save your summons, you might even be able to get her twice. And once you get her twice, you probably get the strongest Awakening she has, or probably one of the strongest A1s in the entire game, being 20% defense reduction. The A2 is pretty straightforward, being a 300 attack increase, but that is also rather significant in making her work, because compared to fighters, we know she has rather low base attack, being 4,400, so that would go up all the way to 4,700, making a significant increase. And then we have the A3. Upon reaching full ecstasy stacks, gains an additional 20% attack speed. So what that means is that, as far as I can tell, once those ecstasy stacks are full, she's going to get not only 120%, but not 120, but not 120%, but it's basically 120 attack speed, and then it goes up to plus 24, so 144 attack speed instead of 120. Isn't too big of an increase, but might make the difference. But there could also again be some weird word changes that might give a total 20% increase, which would obviously be really huge in scaling, but it is rather doubtful. Then we have the standard A4, which is just an increase in penetration, and we already talked about it briefly with the damage formula. Penetration obviously ignores defense, magic resistance, whatever type your unit deals, and that then obviously scales your unit's damage. And then lastly, during the ultimate, the basic attack lands 6 slashes in a row instead of 4. And again, here's the question, how does it interact with her basic attack? Is it 12 slashes because her basic attack hits twice, or is it just 6 slashes? And do those 6 slashes also have the chance to hit allies? So that's hard to see, but honestly, from looking at her, she kind of feels like a you should summon and get her to A1 kind of unit, especially considering the fact that if we go all the way back, her range is really a unique one. It's kind of like a ground Dolores that also has rage boosting elements if you're considering running a Nightmare Council team. Alright, so yeah, should you save your summons? I would consider saving your summons, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not going to summon this weekend, I'm going to save my summons so we can acquire Booba. Alright then,